In the wise words of Miss Hannah Montana, everybody makes mistakes. Hey Fresties, welcome back to Wattpad Wednesdays. Today I am bringing you a video all about the most common writing mistakes that I see on Wattpad. Next week we're going to get into more general mistakes. This week we are focusing on writing mistakes. And right off the bat, I just want to say I don't consider myself to be a writing advice channel because I feel like there are many more people out there who are much more qualified than I am to give writing advice, but I am going to talk about these writing mistakes and give my thoughts on them, give a little bit of advice. But just a disclaimer, these are just my thoughts, my opinions. You can write however you want. Let's get into the video. The first writing mistake that I would say is the most common to see on Wattpad and is probably one of the reasons why Wattpad has that, you know, certain reputation sometimes in certain spaces on the internet where people like to poke fun at it. That would be writers not taking the time to check their grammar and punctuation. At this point, I really don't think there's an excuse for this because you have services that are free, like Grammarly. Even most apps or whatever you choose to write in, like Google Docs, for example, are going to have grammar help. It's gonna tell you when you have made a mistake. So honestly, there's really no excuse to not do this, and it really brings your story down several notches, and you're gonna lose a lot of readers by not just taking that extra minute or two to edit the grammar and punctuation of your chapters. Readers on Wattpad, I honestly feel like, are willing to forgive a lot, but grammar and punctuation is like a staple basic. A lot of people, if it's messed up in the story, are just gonna click off. The second writing mistake that I would say is one of the most common ones, and personally for me, one of the most annoying, is switching tenses. You have a tense in your story, unless you are, you know, making an artistic choice, maybe going back and forth between flashbacks and the present, you need to stick to that tense. You can't say, Marissa walks to the counter, she grabbed the potato. That's two different tenses, and that is something that I see on Wattpad a lot. I think a lot of amateur writers make this mistake. When I was writing my first book, 4 of Clubs, I started out in present tense, and then I took a break, and when I came back, I started writing in past tense. So I had to go back and fix all of that because obviously that's not comfortable to read. It's just weird and jarring, and you want to make sure to stick a tense and stick to it. Wait? You want to make sure to pick a tense and stick to it. While we're on the subject, I don't think that this one is nearly as common, but you want to make sure you're also sticking with your perspective. Whether that's first person, third person, and then third person has a lot of subcategories, you want to stick to that as well. Obviously, there are artistic exceptions to this. What is that called? Artistic liberties. But you want to make sure that you're actually making an artistic choice and not just making a mistake. The third writing mistake that you will see a lot of on Wattpad that I think, again, is another reason why people like to poke fun at Wattpad a lot is because a lot of writers tend to rely a lot on cliches or certain tropes or like typical online writing habits. I don't even know how I would describe this. You know, the typical scene of the girl wakes up in the morning to her alarm clock, she goes to the mirror, she describes her own appearance, etc., etc. That type of a thing that is really cliche and doesn't actually move the story forward and is just kind of lazy writing. That is one of the mistakes that you will come across a lot on Wattpad that is going to have a lot of readers clicking off of your story. You want to open with a hook that is really going to draw them in, not something that they've read 27 times already. And in that same regard, I'm actually quite a fan of cliches. I like cliches. I think they're fun. I think that you can always put your own interesting little spin on them. But obviously, if you are writing something that is cliche, you want to make sure that you are putting your own spin on it. You want to make sure that it is original enough to actually be entertaining. And again, not something that a reader has already read 27 times before. The fourth mistake that I see a lot in writing on Wattpad that I used to make in every single story that I wrote back before I got serious about writing is that there is no balance between the external and the internal plot. I think it's because a lot of us, when we're first starting out writing, we tend to be drawn to either the character side of things or the plot side of things. Maybe somebody out there is really inspired by heist movies and they just want to write like a really riveting heist and all this action and drama and mystery. They get all that down and they find nobody is connecting with their characters because their characters have no internal plot. You know, they have no growth, they have no problems, they're just kind of one-dimensional. The characters are just there to be a part of the plot rather than the plot and the characters helping each other. And I, as a writer, always used to have the opposite problem where I would have little to no idea for a plot externally, but I had this whole internal journey that I wanted the characters to go on, and I just wanted to explore their inner thoughts and all the things they had to deal with, their relationships with one another. And then I was basically just writing scenes where characters would be talking to each other and maybe growing a little as people, but there was really nothing intriguing going on in the story to actually urge people to keep reading. It was more of a character study than anything else, and that is the one that I feel is more popular on Wattpad, that I see more often. So you just want to make sure that you have both an intriguing external plot where you have that hook that's really going to grab readers, make them want to keep reading, something very interesting that is going on in your character's life, but then you also have that internal stuff that is helping your character grow as a person and making that emotional connection with the reader. So those are the 4 most common writing mistakes that I see people make on Wattpad. If you have seen some that I did not mention in this video, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Tell me what your most common mistake has been throughout your writing journey. For me, again, it was that solely focusing on the internal plot, not really having anything external going on. But if you have made one of these mistakes before in the past, don't be hard on yourself. We all start at the beginning of our writing journey, you know, everybody makes mistakes. The great thing about writing on Wattpad is that nothing you publish on there is like permanent. You can go back and edit it as much as you want, as severely as you want, as many times as you want. So if you feel like you have made embarrassing mistakes in the past, which I know I have, you can just go back and fix them. Or also, you don't have to take it that seriously. Maybe you like just writing about the internal conflict and you don't really care if there's any external. You don't have to take Wattpad super seriously. You don't have to try to make everything digestible for other people. At the end of the day, this is a hobby that you are doing because you love it and you are allowed to do it however you want. I hope that you will join me again next week when I talk about more general Wattpad mistakes that don't have much to do with writing and are more so about Wattpad as a platform. So hopefully I will see you here next week. Thank you for watching. Feel free to subscribe for more Wattpad content, writing content, a little bit of vloggy content, all that good stuff. And yeah, I will see you in the next one.